You're listening to the Elusive Gathering podcast, where shadows linger, the past whispers, and truth is often more terrifying than fiction. Tonight, we journey into one of Finland's darkest mysteries, Lake Bodom, a serene, forest-lined lake in the Finnish countryside. The kind of place where you'd expect to see fishermen casting lines at sunrise, or families picnicking under soft blue skies. But in the early morning hours of June 5, 1960, something unthinkable happened here. 4 teenagers set up camp by the water's edge. By morning, 3 were dead, stabbed, bludgeoned, brutally murdered as they slept in their tent. The 4th, he survived, but his story has never added up. Over 60 years later, no one has ever been convicted. This is the story of the Lake Bodom murders, a chilling case of bloodshed, betrayal, and a truth that may have been buried beneath the still waters. Part 1: The Last Campout.
It was the first weekend of summer vacation, June 4, 1960. 4 teenagers, 15-year-old Mira Ermeli Björklund, her boyfriend Seppo Antero Boiman, also 18, and their friends Anja Talikimaki, 15, and Nils Wilhelm Gustafsson, 18, decided to camp on the shore of Lake Bodom, near the town of Espoo. They set up a single tent on the grass near the water, their backs to the forest. The lake was calm. The sky stretched endlessly, and the forest loomed dark behind them. Nothing unusual was reported that night. No one heard screaming. No neighbors reported trouble. Just the quiet of summer settling over the Finnish countryside. But at some point during the night, between 4 and 6 a.m., the silence was shattered. Someone approached their tent and attacked. Whoever it was, they slashed the canvas from the outside. Then they drove a knife and a blunt object into the bodies of the sleeping teens. Mira Björklund was stabbed and bludgeoned so severely that her skull caved in. She was also the only one partially undressed, a fact that has fueled speculation of a possible sexual motive. Seppo Boiman and Anja Maki were also killed, stabbed multiple times, beaten, and left lifeless in the blood-soaked tent. But Nils Gustafsson survived. He was found hours later, confused, bloodied, and badly beaten. His jaw fractured, his face swollen nearly beyond recognition. He claimed to remember nothing.
Part 2: The Discovery.
It wasn't until around 11 a.m. the next morning that a group of birdwatchers stumbled upon the scene. The tent had collapsed. Blood stained the ground and the canvas. 2 bodies lay inside the tent. A third, Mira, was partially outside as if she tried to escape. Nils Gustafsson was found lying on the ground, covered in blood, his injuries severe but not fatal. Police were called immediately. But from the very beginning, mistakes were made. Curious onlookers and reporters walked across the crime scene. Evidence was trampled. Objects were moved. Footprints were erased. No perimeter was secured. In the crucial hours after the murders, what little forensic evidence there was lost. And the only person who could explain what happened claimed he didn't remember.
Part 3: The Only Survivor.
Nils Gustafsson was taken to the hospital with a broken jaw, concussion, and multiple facial fractures. He claimed the last thing he remembered was going to bed. Then, nothing. Just darkness. Initially, police believed him. After all, his injuries were serious. He had clearly been attacked. But something about the scene didn't sit right. Nils's shoes were found over 500 meters away, bloodied but otherwise intact. His injuries, though dramatic, were different from the others. The medical examiner noted that Mira's injuries were far more extensive than the others, almost as if she'd been targeted with particular rage. Rumors began to swirl. Could Nils have killed the others in a fit of jealousy? Had he blacked out and committed the murders himself? For decades, the police remained divided. But Nils wasn't the only suspect.
Part 4: Theories and Suspects.
As the investigation unfolded, several bizarre and disturbing theories emerged.
Theory 1: Nils Gustafsson, the survivor.
In 2004, 44 years after the murders, Nils Gustafsson was officially charged with the killings. Prosecutors argued that Nils had become jealous of Mira during the night. Perhaps she rejected him, or he caught her flirting with another boy. Enraged, he lashed out, killing all 3 of his friends. Then, to cover up the crime, he inflicted injuries on himself, smashing his face with a rock to create an alibi. But at trial, forensic experts pushed back. They argued that his injuries were too severe to be self-inflicted. The timeline didn't fully add up, and there was no clear motive. In 2005, Nils was acquitted of all charges. He maintained his innocence until his death in 2020.
Theory 2. A local recluse. The kiosk man.
Another strange lead involved a man named Hans Assmann, a German immigrant living nearby who had connections to Soviet intelligence. On the day of the murders, Assmann reportedly checked into a Helsinki hospital with blood-stained clothes and fingernails. He was agitated, nervous, but police dismissed him as too strange to be taken seriously. Later, it was revealed that Assmann had a long history of mental illness, but he had also been suspected in other unsolved murders. Some believe he was the real killer, and that his Soviet connections protected him from scrutiny.
Theory 4. Random killer, or supernatural entity.
Over the years, stories began to take on a life of their own. Some believed the killer was a drifter, a passing madman who vanished into the forest. Others pointed to a series of similar unsolved murders in Finland during the 1960s, stabbings and bludgeonings in remote areas. But the most eerie theory? Some say the lake itself is cursed. Local legends speak of shadowy figures, strange lights, and ghostly voices echoing across the water. In one bizarre 1990s incident, a man camping alone near the same spot reported hearing whispers outside his tent, followed by deep slash marks in the canvas. He fled the site in the night and never returned.
Part 5. The lost evidence.
Much of the physical evidence from the Lake Bodom murders is gone. The tent was never properly preserved. The murder weapons were never recovered. Even the crime scene photos are scarce and often mislabeled. This has made solving the case nearly impossible. Police conducted hundreds of interviews, followed dozens of leads, and even staged reenactments of the crime. But nothing stuck. Time passed. Witnesses died. Memories faded. And yet, the murders have never left the public consciousness.
Part 6. Paranormal whispers and hauntings.
As the years passed, the legend of Lake Bodom took on supernatural overtones. Locals began reporting strange activity near the lake, unexplained sounds at night, phantom footsteps, cold spots in the air. Some claimed to see ghostly figures near the murder site. Others heard screams echoing from the woods long after dark. Urban explorers who visited the site often reported camera malfunctions, strange symbols carved into trees, or the eerie sensation of being watched. Was it just imagination? Or did the lake remember what happened? In Finnish folklore, lakes are often tied to spirits, places where tragedy stains the water and lingers long after the bodies are gone. Perhaps the killer died without confessing. Or perhaps, they return again and again, reliving the crime in the silence of the forest.
Part 7. A haunting legacy.
Today, the murder site at Lake Bodom is marked only by a small cross and a quiet clearing. Campers still visit, though many do so with caution. True crime enthusiasts travel from across Europe to see the spot where it all happened. Finnish metal band Children of Bodom named themselves after the case, and referenced it often in their music, a nod to the eerie, unsolved nature of the crime. Despite modern forensic advancements, no new evidence has ever come to light. The case remains one of Finland's greatest mysteries. 3 teenagers brutally murdered, one survivor whose story has never quite added up, and a forest that even now seems to hold its breath.
Some murders leave behind more than blood. They leave behind silence, doubt, fear. Lake Bodom remains still today, its waters dark, its trees whispering secrets. Somewhere beneath its surface lies the answer, or perhaps the echo of something we're not meant to know. This has been the Elusive Gathering podcast. If you found this episode chilling, subscribe and leave a review. We explore true stories of the unexplained, the unsolved, and the unforgettable. Until next time, stay out of the woods.